It is rivalry week, it is Thanksgiving week, and we are thankful for Big Ten breakfast. This is now served.
Welcome back to Big Ten breakfast. Dan Rubenstein. It's been a long season of doing Big Ten previews, of also doing part Yelp review with this here version of a video show.
Yes.
On today's episode, we're talking rivalries. We're talking Big Ten. We're also talking about those meals we have had over the course of this season that we are most thankful for, sir. How goes it? Are you ready for this week?
I am ready for this week. It's a huge week of games, and we're going to be a little sentimental here, Ty. We're going to pick the games, but I also want to go through matchups, and I want you to select something, some player, some storyline, some side of the ball, some part of this season that you are thankful for with that specific team. I'm going to put you on the spot just a little bit, but because we have Friday games, we're releasing this episode a little bit early. Let's start here. Minnesota, Wisconsin. Why are you thankful for each of these teams, and who do you have?
I am thankful first and foremost for PJ Fleck and his extra medium vest situation.
Not his elixir.
Not the elixir. The elixir was just weird, but
that's great. That's what I'm thankful for.
PJ Fleck going extra medium. PJ Fleck still bringing all the enthusiasm. I am thankful that we got to see elements of this Minnesota team that made me feel smart, i.e. back in the beginning of the season, I was all in on Minnesota. I don't feel like they ever quite lived up to the hype that I was dishing out, but there have been moments this season where we saw the passing game, the running game, the receiving game all kind of mesh. And for those moments, I am most thankful. They have been at points few and far between. I've got Minnesota here. I just like the vibe right now with where they're at. Close loss a week ago against Penn State, but I still just generally think they're the better team. Whereas with Wisconsin, I kind of don't know what to expect. So give me the Gophers.
Yeah, I'm thankful for PJ Fleck weirdness. I'm thankful for that defense. And with Wisconsin, I'm thankful for those first halves where we were thinking maybe we'd get a game from this team, whether it was against Oregon, whether it was against USC, whether it was against Penn State. There are a lot of teams that have struggled with slow starts. Wisconsin, slow finishes.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
So we're thankful for those weird halftime moments. I'm going with Minnesota here as well. Wisconsin has just struggled against teams with quality defenses with this specific offense. Obviously, they made the change. I think we're going Minnesota outright. Nebraska, Iowa. What are you thankful for? Who you got?
I'm going with Nebraska here plus the 4.5, but I think that Iowa wins the game because these are just the kind of games that Iowa wins. I am thankful for the Iowa narrative this season, which gradually over the course of the year went from being a novel concept at the beginning to sort of something we assume by the end. And by that, I mean an offense that would improve.
Right.
How much has it improved? Who's to say?
Well, they're on to their third, fourth string quarterback, but yeah.
All that being said, it still feels generally like the same offense that we have seen, that we have grown accustomed to over the years with Iowa, but it is definitely a tick better. I don't know if you heard what Dana Holgorsen said. Now Dana Holgorsen, the offensive coordinator for Nebraska, but he talked this week about preparing for Iowa, and he said, it's the exact same defense I prepared for 20 years ago when I was playing Iowa. So he's thankful maybe for a little bit less work. I am thankful for the fact that the Iowa offense has felt like it's improved at least a little bit, and that it is not a laughing stock the way it was a week ago. So a year ago. Give me Iowa this week, but not covering 4.5. No.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Iowa as well. Probably not covering, winning close. I'm thankful for Caleb Johnson. It's very difficult to be a standout offensive player on an offense that, while improved, is not always incredible. A program obviously hasn't been always incredible on offense. So and I guess I'm also grateful that Iowa only employs Ferentz on this coaching staff.
That too.
Ferentz.
That too.
Nebraska-wise, I'm thankful for the very specific moment. Well, one, the Rutgers infection is kind of funny to me. That play Rutgers and have your offense completely derailed after that.
Yeah.
And two, that Nebraska fans at 5-5 were despondent. They're like, this is too high a hill to climb to get to bowl eligibility, winning one of their final 2 games, which of course they were able to do in beating Wisconsin, and now can just add a little bit of icing in beating a newish rival in Iowa. So yeah, I have Iowa winning close but not covering. So those are your Friday games.
Those are Friday games, yeah.
Okay. First game has to be the game because it's the game.
Yeah.
Michigan, Ohio State. What are you thankful for? Who you got?
I've got Ohio State minus almost anything in this game. I believe the point spread's around 20.5, 21 points. I just think Ohio State is the better team. I am thankful that we got to see an evolving version of Will Howard this year.
Okay.
An evolving version, a cocky version of Will Howard. I kind of like that swagger. You and I have gone back and forth on this a couple times, but
yeah,
I like the fact that it feels like he is playing with a chip on his shoulder.
And in the booth, right? A chip in the booth.
And in the booth, sure.
Kelly, yeah, that's just from me to you.
I like that. I think Ohio State needs that. I think they want that. I think this is the year that they're going to break that 3-game losing streak. And I think Will Howard is going to put on a little bit of a show on the sidelines. He's going to have some sort of gesture, something to get the crowd at the horseshoe all fired up. So for me, I'm excited to see what he has in store for this game. I think this is the year that Ohio State breaks that streak and hopefully can give Ryan Day a little bit of respite.
Give me some thankful attitude for Michigan's 2024. How about that?
You're asking me what am I thankful for?
Yeah, anything.
I am thankful that we finally got to see some semblance of a passing offense, albeit it took 10 weeks out of the year to get there with Davis Warren. It has not been a great offense by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm thankful that they at least figured out some formula later in the year, that it felt like there was an actual philosophy behind this thing, as opposed to what we saw the first however many weeks of the year where it was unclear what we were going to get from week to week.
See, I'm thankful for that mess that Michigan went into the season with no idea what it had or didn't have at quarterback, seemingly starting a guy who was okay, but threw too many interceptions, went to the guy that couldn't throw, lost them some games, went to a guy who was hurt during camp and then ended up retiring because of injuries. We hope Jack Tuttle has a long, healthy life. And then weirdly sprinkling in the quarterback who couldn't throw, and everybody knew he was running or they were running a trick play, and it never working out basically, and then going back to the guy that probably should have been the starter all along.
That's right.
That's great to me. Ohio State wise, I'm just thankful for Jeremiah Smith being in my life. I'm just going to appreciate excellence. How about that? Nice and simple there. I have Ohio State minus anything.
I'm with you.
We're same page. Wrigley Field is where we're heading next. Northwestern sort of hosting Illinois. Who you got?
I am thankful for the weird Northwestern field.
Yes. So much so.
They won 4 games this year. They're not going to a bowl. Obviously, Northwestern's got a lot of fixing up to do here in the offseason if they want to be better next year. But you and I were there. We were in the stadium, the portable stadium, for all its glory back in week 2 when they played that game against Duke. Right. The weather was horrible second half. But alas, we got to go there. We got to experience it. And I just think it's a cool college football story. I've got Illinois in this one here. I just think Illinois is a better team. They're going to finish 9-3 this season, which is a pretty good year for Brett Bielema, all things considered. But for me, it's like we were at that stadium. It's a cool college football story. I'm grateful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm grateful for the stadium. I like that they're going from a temp stadium to a baseball stadium with just it's just consistent weirdness, unorthodox choices. I'm here for it. It's great. I'm also here for Northwestern being the landing place for Mike Wright, who I think has started and lost the starting quarterback job at 3 different power conference institutions.
That's right.
So there's that. And Illinois-wise, I'm going to stick with my theme here. Pat Bryant, an absolute breakthrough at receiver, showed some flashes, was beat up last season, and is a first-team All-Big Ten Conference caliber receiver for the Illini, and sort of helping to redefine the Brett Bielema identity, because they were better throwing the ball, clearly, than running, sort of at the same as the tail end of his time at Arkansas. And I have Illinois comfortable and clean here as well in your favorite trophy in the big, or your most underrated trophy in the Big Ten.
The Land of Lincoln trophy. Yeah, the gold top hat. Yeah, absolutely.
Maryland, Penn State. Thankful pick.
I'm a Penn State grad.
Yes, you are.
I am thankful for 2 things. First and foremost, I am thankful that there is a new playoff system that has expanded and allows Penn State in. because this version of this team in last year's format doesn't get in. In all likelihood, I don't think they're getting in. So I'm grateful that they're not only going to get in this year, provided they can win this week, but that they will also host a home game in Beaver Stadium, which will be epic and awesome
What it's looking like,
and a ton of fun. So I'm very grateful, to say the least, for that. I'm also grateful for Andy Kotelnicki, who I think has done a good job with this offense. Bear in mind, this is an offense that still has a ton of talent. They may not be as loaded out wide. So what did they do? They figured out a way, many ways, to use Tyler Warren.
Yeah.
What have they done in their backfield? Well, they have figured out ways to deploy Nick Singleton, maybe not as like an every down back who's getting the ball 35 times a game, but they have found ways to lean on him in key moments. They have found ways, I think, to make Drew Aller evolve and be better as a quarterback. All of these things have been positive steps forward. I think they're going to cream Maryland this weekend because they always cream Maryland in November. It's just what they do. They're going to go into that playoff. They're going to be rested. They're going to have some time off, and they're going to have an opportunity to win a game in Beaver Stadium, maybe at night. Who knows? We'll see. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the way that this season has unfolded for Penn State.
I'm thankful that Bowling Green was really, really good against Penn State, but not in a winning effort, because I'm thankful that, for your sake, that both of your teams didn't lose to MAC teams disappointingly within like a 2-3 week span, because I would have been relentless for the rest of time about it. So that's my gratitude there. And for Maryland, I'm thankful that they were basically atrocious in all of their Big Ten games, except for beating USC.
Right.
They lost by double digits, I think, in every Big Ten game, other than the one in which they beat USC. I think they lost to Michigan State close to start the season. Otherwise, somehow pulling out that USC game in a sea of disappointment is, that's just hilarious.
It's like classic college football right there.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Next game, Ty. Let's go with USC Notre Dame, another game personal to you. What are you thankful for? What are you picking here?
Well, on the USC side, I am grateful for the first, second, and third quarters, not the fourth, because there have been plenty of instances this year where USC's been pretty good until they get to those waning moments of a football game where they find a way to lose. So I've been grateful to see that from the SC side. From the Notre Dame side of things, I am grateful for the USC fourth quarters, because I do have worries that this could end up being a game that comes down to the waning moments, and USC has not fared well in those moments. So also on the USC side, I think I'm grateful that the defense took a step forward. I don't think it's been anything that's been so earth-shattering that it has taken them to another echelon. This is still just a 6-win team, Dan, but
yes,
I do think there has been improvement there that if you're an SC fan, you should be thankful for. In this game, I picked Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame has the physical advantage along both trenches. I do think the fact that Riley Leonard is a mobile quarterback presents something to this USC defense, improved as it may be, that they have not been up against at all this season. Riley Leonard is just a different kind of cat. So I like Notre Dame, like 31-17, something in that neighborhood. But it wouldn't surprise me if this is pretty close late.
I am grateful for Woody Marks, because he has been fun all season long for USC. We can talk till we're blue in the face about their fourth quarters and every game holding the lead in the fourth quarter and not pulling out a bunch of them. But let's take a spin at the positive. I'm also grateful for the last few minutes of that LSU game.
Yeah.
In terms of just pure great TV, that was a wonderful watch. Probably not for LSU fans, but for a party who was not rooting for either team. I loved it. I'm not thankful for anything with Notre Dame because they're not a Big Ten team, and this is Big Ten breakfast. Join a conference, cowards.
Whatever. Continue.
I am picking USC to cover and Notre Dame to win. Another close one, but I think there's just too much to like about Notre Dame as a more complete team. So I'm going with the Irish to win, but USC to keep it relatively close, maybe with a couple of explosives. Rutgers, Michigan State.
I am grateful for Kyle Monangai.
Yes.
The so-called Gila monster for Rutgers. And when healthy, his ability to put the offense on his back. On the Michigan State side, I am grateful that Jonathan Smith has taken over in East Lansing, that it feels like there is a philosophy, a plan, a potential way into bowl season if they win this game. I do think
Yes.
that he has done a really good job. And I think if you're a Michigan State fan, you got to feel pretty good about it because the circumstances under which Jonathan Smith took over were not ideal. It was kind of a program in a bit of disarray given circumstances. So I'm grateful for two things here, one for each team. I'm on Michigan State. I think Michigan State wins this game. They're a very slight favorite going in. They need this one to get bowl eligible. Clearly, this means more for them than it does Rutgers. They're at home. That's a format that, for me, makes a lot of sense to go Sparty.
I am thankful for Nick Marsh and Charles Bentley. It's always nice to have stars continue to emerge on a team that is rebuilding for Michigan State, and were relatively entertaining for different stretches. You know, the very beginning of the Indiana game, beating Iowa. Like, there's glimmers there with Michigan State. It's not a good team right now as they're playing for bowl eligibility in the final week of the year. And on the Rutgers side, they're bowl eligible.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful that so they don't have any bad losses this year. Like, they didn't lose to any truly terrible teams, but they also have the worst loss of the year in the manner in which they lost to Illinois. I am grateful that a team can lose on a last-second passing play from midfield and have it nowhere near be a Hail Mary.
Right.
So I am grateful that that kind of reality exists in this very silly sport. I'm going Rutgers here to win this game on the road because, as I said on the main show, they're here to hurt feelings and very little else.
Okay, fair enough.
Fresno State, UCLA. Give me UCLA gratitude, thankfulness, and a pick.
I am grateful for UCLA's weird win over Iowa a couple weeks back. I still don't really understand it. I've watched the game. I've looked at the stats. I've done the spreadsheet special, the advanced statistical analysis that you and I like to do. I still don't really get this game, Dan.
Yeah.
This was an interesting first half, a weird second half. UCLA ends up winning with a field goal, 20-17. That was their fourth and final win thus far of this season. I don't know if they close out with one here against Fresno. I think I trend Fresno a little bit more than I do UCLA. I don't know if UCLA has a whole lot to build on moving into next season, but maybe we will find out what they've got left in the tank here against Fresno State. So give me Fresno. I think a close game. I still favor the Bulldogs.
I'm grateful for UCLA's win at Nebraska and mentioning that Nebraska fans were despondent at 5-5 and getting it's largely because they're like, well, our season has been somewhat disappointing, but at least we're going to beat UCLA at home.
Yeah.
And then losing to UCLA. That's, I don't know, man. That's always going to tickle me where it counts most. And that's the old silly noodle. I'm going to go with UCLA to not cover, but win this game against Fresno State. And I'm grateful that and thankful that we got some entertainment out of UCLA after they start 1-5, something like that.
Yeah.
That they became more entertaining, beating Rutgers, Nebraska, Iowa, like you mentioned. So we'll see. We'll see if they grow into an interesting team down the line. Purdue, Indiana, Old Oaken Bucket. What are you thankful for? Who has your heart in this one?
I am thankful for Curt Cignetti being a talking point this year.
Google me.
Yeah, I am thankful that the swagger we saw on the basketball court when he was announced, when I believe he said Purdue sucks, or something of that nature. I am grateful that that swagger has carried on through the college football season, has gotten Indiana to the precipice of being in the college football playoff, something nobody saw coming before the start of the year. A 10-0 start for the first time in Indiana football history. I am grateful that Curt Cignetti is in our lives in the manner that he is in our lives. The fact that he is talking a good amount of smack and he is backing it up. That is really exciting to me. I'm on Indiana minus whatever. I don't even know what the point spread is. 28, 29 points. I think Indiana is going to finish strong here. They're going to go into the college football playoff. They're probably going to be on the road week 1 of the playoff system, maybe against Notre Dame, maybe against Penn State. I suppose it depends how the final standings shake out, but I'm just grateful that we've gotten to this point with Curt Cignetti and that Indiana is no longer a laughingstock. It gives hope for teams like Purdue, by the way. Purdue is now where Indiana once was. So if there is any inspiration on the Purdue side of this Old Oaken Bucket rivalry, it's look at where Indiana has gotten and look how quickly they've gotten there.
Yes, I'm grateful for Purdue's second half of the game against Illinois. That made things really fun, really entertaining. I don't know how much hope it gave people that root for Purdue, but it was probably more fun than any other half of football that Purdue has played this year.
Yeah.
So there's that. I am thankful for the degree to which Curt Cignetti in Indiana got under the skin of SEC fans for doing very little objectionable other than blowing teams out who they were scheduled to play.
That's right.
That SEC fans were deep in their Indiana. How can you put Indiana in? Look at their schedule, guys. We're not gonna, the number 19 is that no.
A lot of breathlessness. Truly, yes. I think you're doing an apt impersonation there.
Yeah. It's week to week. It's very difficult in the SEC, and Indiana doesn't understand. I love that so much. They're going to blow out Purdue because that's just what has been foretold by the elders in the college football universe. That's right. That's who I have there. Oregon, Washington. What are you thankful for?
I'm thankful that we have gotten to see a version of Dan Lanning that feels a little bit more fully formed. Like a year ago when we were talking about this Oregon-Washington game.
Yeah.
A year ago, it was a much different vibe. Now, that was a Michael Penix Washington. That was a Washington that had just an incredible receiving core of guys who are now playing in the NFL. It was a different squad back then, but it was still a Dan Lanning that felt like a bit of a riverboat gambler. And as you recall from that Washington matchup that they played earlier in the year, felt like he was taking unnecessary risks.
Sure.
And this year, with the cast of characters that he has brought to Eugene, with the depth, the incredible depth they have on both sides of this roster, it feels to me like these are more calculated risks and not ones out of desperation, or not ones that haven't been fully thought through. Even if you believe him, the penalty that he took against the Ohio State game earlier in the year. He is taking risks, but he is obviously a little bit more deliberate about them. It feels like he has grown as a coach, as this roster has also grown in terms of depth and talent. So I'm grateful that we get to see a young coach, an exciting program sort of realize its worth in this era of college football and be the only undefeated team, Dan, 11-0. It's been exciting to watch.
Oh my God. Yes. First of all, for Washington, I'm thankful for that they got Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick children to run their offense and defense. And honestly, they've been okay. They've been on a tour of many different new states losing, but they've been, Denzel Boston. There have been some young guys who've stepped up. That's kind of cool. And for Oregon, it's actually the videos of Dan Lanning after the fact showing behind the scenes before the fact, where he's almost like a parent trying to trick a child into eating vegetables, is giving cultural and history lessons as a way to motivate his team about like the hunter-gatherers in ancient Mesopotamia. We are hunter-gatherers.
That's right.
Like,
That's right.
I love it. It kind of seems both corny and very entertaining and effective all at the same time. And it's a long season. If he's found a way to motivate his team through various means, I don't know. It's been entertaining to me as an Oregon human. So good by me. I have Oregon big. I don't think they're going to play a great offensive game. I think they'll be good as they find their way. But I think they'll get defensive scores, special teams advantages, and they will be comfortable winners in this one.
Yeah, I'm on Oregon here. I think they exact revenge for the 2 losses a year ago. And also, I think at this point, despite the fact that there might be a little bit of look-ahead potential, looking ahead to the Big Ten title game, most likely against Ohio State, I do think Dan Lanning, to my earlier point, is fully formed enough and focused enough on this Washington game that he's going to have the boys ready to play. So give me Oregon minus whatever. I think they're going to win in impressive fashion.
We are the totem poles. Yeah, there'll be something.
There'll be something.
Here's my last question. It's rivalry week, and I know we're not going to pick the same answer. We're not going to come to the same conclusion, but we featured virtual visits to all sorts of incredible looking breakfast options, diners, cafes, whatever, across the Big Ten. Now is your time to select your breakfast champion of the season. Who is it?
My regular season breakfast champion is Iggy's. Iggy's Eggies up
Ann Arbor.
In Ann Arbor was obviously the only one of these places that we had a chance to go to this year because we went to the Oregon Michigan game a couple weeks ago. That breakfast sandwich from Iggy's was a religious experience.
Wow.
It was a religious. I've never had a breakfast sandwich that good in my entire life. I'm not even just saying that.
Big words.
For the purposes of this show. So Iggy's, keep doing what you're doing, man. That was a hell of a breakfast sandwich. That's the winner for me.
My mind, as many as the great places that we featured looked, as good as they looked, Lucky Boy in Pasadena, a stone's throw from the Rose Bowl where UCLA plays, those giant breakfast burritos, they just get my heart pumping, as they will probably slow down my heart when I eventually eat Lucky Boy. It's just a perfect breakfast to me, and it's a huge breakfast burrito. You should probably split it if you know what's good for you, but I famously do not know what is good for me. And so, chorizo and crispy potatoes and eggs and cheese and beans and avocado, and throw the whole damn thing back on the griddle to get it nice and crispy. That's my dream of a morning. I'll probably go get coffee elsewhere. The coffee doesn't look great, but I don't think it can be topped in the Big Ten. And I'm talking about across the board, great capital G looking places.
I love it. I love it. It's been a pleasure to go to all of these virtual places with you.
Yeah, thank you.
And
Same.
And Iggy's truly was one of the ones that we got to go to in person. So that's got to be the pick for me.
All right, fair enough. Okay, we will be back next week previewing the Big Ten championship game. And I guess the special breakfast selection in Indianapolis, if that's cool with you.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
But on that note, thank you everybody for watching all season long. We'll see you next week. Thank you for watching. Let us know what you are thankful for your team in the Big Ten or any other team in the Big Ten. Write down in the comments. We'll see you soon.